Hi, thanks for joining us today at Inclusion Fusion. I'm Katie Weatherby with Key Ministry, and I'm really excited about this module that we're offering about siblings of children with disabilities. We have with us the children of Colleen Swindoll Thompson, and they are going to share with us a little bit about what it's like to be a sibling of a child with special needs. So I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves. Why don't we start with you, Cody?
I'm Cody, and I'm 20 years old, and I go to Collin College. I'm John's older stepbrother. And when I'm not either at school or at work, I like hanging out with friends, just doing normal kid stuff. I'm just a regular college kid. And, you know, when you're around John, that's another full-time job, so it's something that you have to be cognizant of. You have to kind of take the time that you're given and split it between work, school, church, John, and then social time.
My name is Ashley Dane. I'm John's older sister. He's my younger by 4 years. I am also a college student. We actually go to the same college. And when I am not at school or at work, I also like hanging out with my friends. But most of all, I have been really, really motivated to pursue my dream career as an exotics veterinarian. Having John as a little sibling, it doesn't put your dreams on hold. You just have to be determined enough to go and get it. And believe it or not, he's actually a really big motivator for that sort of stuff. So it's really nice, believe it or not, if you see a silver lining.
I'm Austin, and I'm 17 years old, and I go to Wakeland High School in Frisco, Texas. I'm younger than these two, and I'm older than my brother Jonathan by 3 years. I'm really involved in theater in my school, and I'm involved in an agency right now called Core Talent, and they work with me on acting. And I'll be playing baseball in the spring. I've played football at Wakeland, and right now I'm just going through junior year. It's gonna be really busy, but you know that's high school, being really busy and enjoying every moment of it.
So great, thank you. So for you all, when did you first begin to think that there might be something that was different about your little brother?
I guess this would apply to just me and Austin.
Right,
But,
right.
you know, I would think that when you first met John, you were aware of the fact that he was special needs, but I guess you can pull the question to what did you think about it, if we're going this way?
It doesn't matter.
Well, when I first met y'all, it was after the first date that Colleen and my dad had, and I came to the house. It seemed just like a normal family, and then
No, it
And
didn't.
then
then I got to know them, and I met John, and I mean, you know right away that something is different about him, and not necessarily bad, just different. And I think what people tend to think now is that different is bad, and that's not always the case. And when I first met him, I thought, well, there's something different, but I really didn't know, so I didn't have any specific opinions about it. I just realized that something was different.
Okay. How about you, Ashley?
For me, I was really young at the time that Jonathan was born, so I didn't really understand, and the fact that he wasn't even a part of our family for the longest time. He was in the hospital, and that's where he lived in and out for the first couple of years of his life. But as soon as he did come and start living with us, I did realize that there was something that was a little bit, just off about him. And I was also fine with it. I was completely open to it. When you're a kid, accepting other children is a whole bunch easier, actually, than when you're older and you've gotten accustomed to the social norms of this world. So I'm going to have to say, when I first discovered that there was something wrong with John, and I had that talk with my mom, it actually didn't even affect what I thought about him as a sibling or as a person even. I just realized that there is a little bit of something different, and that I was going to have to conform to that, and that's the way it's been ever since.
Okay. So how about you?
For me, it's never really been like, when did you know that he was different? I mean, I'm really close to him, and I hung out with him all the time when I was a little kid. And it was never a matter of when did you find out. It was just, I always knew, somehow, I just always knew that he wasn't like me and Ashley, but I get along with him just the same. you know, it's just one of those brother things. You know, you have a connection. It's like telekinesis. You understand someone when you're talking to them. So it was never a direct point. It was I pretty much always knew just how he interacted with me.
Okay. So as you were growing up, was it allowed in your family to talk a little bit about the differences that he had? Was there a freedom in your home to discuss what was going on with him?
We grew up in a home where that was not commonly accepted.
Okay.
We never talked about it with our biological dad.
Mhm.
It
It never really became a topic subject. It just never came up.
with
Okay.
him. With my mom, I don't know about you. On the other hand, with my mom, she was really always very passionate about my little brother and finding out what he needed. I mean, providing for her children, period. She's an amazing mother, and it's just always been a real passion of hers. So when it came to my little brother, it's almost like she was perfect for the job. She was perfect for having a child with autism, even though it was hard for her to discover that. So as I grew up, it became more of a topic between my mom and I. And as I tried to fit in, you know, find my place in junior high or middle school and high school, I think that was the hardest part. When I was a child, it was easier to accept because it didn't directly affect my living. However, when you're walking through Walmart and your little brother with Tourette's has his audible tics, you want to walk away and say, I don't know this person, but they are weird. And it's sad to say that, and it's hard to understand unless you're a sibling, but it's true. You don't always want to accept it, and it's not always something that you want to talk about. It's not something that everybody can understand, unfortunately.
It just never really came up in our family. I really didn't start to comprehend how different or how vastly separated he was from a normal person until we moved from California back to Texas.
Okay.
And that's when I really started realizing, you know, John is not like anyone else.
Because before, I mean, he was quieter.
He
and
changed a lot.
He
changed
oh
a
my
lot.
gosh, he has blossomed since we moved back here. But before, he wasn't given the chance to become the person he is today. And so I don't think that we really were aware of any of that internal struggle that he had until he made it obvious to us. And he's begun to express himself, and all of that wonderful process has actually happened. And it's been really fun to watch, actually, and be a part of.
And I really appreciate that you talked a little bit about how it can be kind of humiliating if your brother is ticking or having a meltdown or
Oh my goodness.
struggling in a public place. And I think that that's going to be an encouragement to some other siblings who feel that way, but sometimes are not allowed to maybe talk about it at home and say, you know, this really embarrasses me, or it's really hard when he does that and I feel very self-conscious. And what I would say is that's normal to feel that way for any teenager. So I really appreciate that you guys were willing to share that, because I think it's really true. So when John was little, he gained skills and then he really regressed. Talk a little bit about that time. And Cody, I know that you weren't part of the family at that time, but talk a little bit about what that was like and how that affected your mom and maybe even your relationship with your mom.
There's a lot of turmoil that happens when parents separate, and he can't understand why someone just leaves the house and doesn't come back.
Right.
It's not an average thing. For him, days may seem like years or seconds. You know, time is completely irrelevant when it comes to someone is gone. He could think you're gone forever. He could think you're gone for 10 minutes. You know, he doesn't really get the fact that we're a family and we love him very much. And even with his autistic disabilities, we're not going to stop loving him. And that's what the world should see, is that you should give love to anyone with autistic disabilities. I think because of our love, he was able to gain more progress, and he saw more hope in himself. But hope is really difficult for an autistic child to see because they are self-conscious. They realize who they are. They just don't know how to express themselves.
It's like being stuck in a body that doesn't work. And he might have autism and slight mental disabilities also, but he is still going through those middle school, trying to figure out how you are, talking back to mom and dad. He still does that exact same thing. He's exactly like any other kid, just with some special needs. And I think when my little brother regressed, and I can barely remember it because it had already started happening, and it's just how it always had been. He started learning words, and really expressing himself, and then all of a sudden it was just like he was a shell. And that was really discouraging. You don't really understand how much it affects you until it happens to you. When a family member, a essential part of that family unit, stops talking, and you can't get them to express themselves, it immediately causes a sensible change in the family structure.
It's a loss.
It is. It's almost like they've passed away.
It's like you've lost someone that you've always known to be there. When someone changes dramatically, it's usually it's heartbreaking to see it happen. And when they're back, it's just so enlightening, and it's so empowering to see how someone with disabilities can go from such a hard, difficult time to such a prosperous life. And I'm just really happy that he's getting back to where he was.
Right. Some kids tell us, kids of siblings with disabilities will tell us that they feel kind of resentful sometimes because the child with disabilities is getting a lot of attention.
And it's so true.
A lot of time, a lot of expensive kinds of things that go along with therapies or motivators. Talk a little bit about that in your family, and I'm sure even as new as you are to these guys, you've seen that too. Talk a little bit about what that's like.
Well, the thing a lot of normal teenagers or a lot of people with a sibling of disabilities misconceive is that their parents are not doing it for the fact of ignoring them. They're doing it for the fact that the autistic children needs them. And a lot of time they're thinking, well, they're giving their attention because they don't love me, or they're giving their attention because someone's more important. No, they're giving their attention is because they need it. I mean,
It's necessary.
You need someone to work on a car for it to work. And right now, autistic children, they're just left with an engine, and they need someone to help them. And it's just a long process, and a lot of teenagers just don't know how to feel, or they're really upset because their parents are giving more love to someone else. And if I was in a place, if I had no idea where I was, and I was confused a lot of the time, and I had no imagination or sense of time, I need some extra help.
Sure.
I can't survive without it. So that's their placement.
I really, really, really struggled a lot with resentment as far as my little brother is concerned. As a child, as independent as I was, I still did want that kind of love and affection, and I began to act out based on not receiving that, and I've also struggled with a sense of entitlement, like I am worth that attention. And it sounds really, really selfish, but I wanted John to be able to make his own meals, and I mean he can do stuff like that now, but it's difficult for my mom to adjust to that, like it would be for anybody. So resentment for me, it's been a huge problem, and through counseling as well as talking more about this with my mom. And some parents, the problem is they are not open to talking about it, and after that the child is like, well, what do I do? How do I get this attention that I need? And it's by acting out, because bad attention is better than no attention at all. And those parents that have that problem with their children, they question, well, I give you everything, I've raised you right, what's the missing link here?
Right.
You just gotta listen, you gotta pay attention, you gotta be willing to give up some of that time, maybe some special time, just with you with your child. You really have to be willing to dedicate that time to them. I can speak for nearly every special needs sibling out there when I say that a parent's love is important, and you can't substitute it with anything else. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of special needs siblings didn't really realize that until maybe it was told to them. I certainly didn't realize it was going on until down the line, looking back, and that I can say that was why I acted out and did some of the things that I did, and completely shut off in some aspects, and it really affected my family. It really hurt them, and I wish that it had been different.
It seems to me, just because we've hung out a little bit at lunch today and we've talked a little bit, it seems like there's been a lot of work towards reconciliation with you and your mom. You and your mom have a great time together. There's a lot of laughing between all of you. So it would seem to me that there's definitely hope if a teenager or a younger sibling of a child with disabilities is in that situation, that doesn't have to be the end of the story.
Oh my gosh, no. People are always growing and changing. I can definitely say from a couple of years back, I have done a 360. I mean, oh man, you can ask my mom. I was a problem child.
It's a 180.
You can ask him. 180, 360.
It's a 180, not a 360.
Some kind of skateboard trick, I'm sure.
This is 360.
Okay,
That's
all right,
180.
thank you, my geometry teacher. But you can definitely ask my siblings. There's
Right.
been a drastic and noticeable change.
Yeah, for sure. It was really difficult growing up with this one right here, and
Oh, so you
but we're such a blessed family. We have such a great team to work with, and we call ourselves a team all the time. We don't consider ourselves, members of a family. We're just a team. We work together all the time, or at least we try to. Cody, he's always got my back, and I'm trying to get his back. And Ashley's really compassionate about John, and we always want to better each other. And Ashley's made a great change, and it's great to be her brother now, comparatively to
Now.
4 years ago. And she has done a 180, and we've all just changed in different ways. And when you have an autistic sibling, it's not a bad thing. Actually, it's a pretty good thing, because
There's a lot of perks.
you realize how other people are in life, and you can connect to them so easily because you have the patience and you have the knowledge of how to deal with someone in their worst state, and then you go out in the world and you can deal with people in their normal states. So
It's really good people skills. I thought that having a sibling with special needs was a bad thing until I really looked at it closely and discovered that I have a lot more patience than people who are my age, I think. Or at least that's what my mom has told me.
it matures you faster. A lot faster.
Yeah, you really get, and sometimes that's considered a bad thing, but other times it's just the life experience that molds your future according to how much you can handle. And maturing faster obviously increases the ability to handle those things.
Cody, you kind of married into all of this, so to speak. What did you think when your dad started dating Colleen, and you knew that there were some significant things going on in this family?
Well, my dad had gotten a divorce 2 years prior to that, and he was still having trouble with that, and he all the time told us how sad he was that we weren't around him. But when I first met Colleen, and then I first met the whole family, I
We're shocked.
it was a lot to take in all at once.
Sure.
But we went back home that night, and I told my dad, I said, Dad, we have enough problems. I said, two more kids, and then a third with autism, and then Colleen and I joke all the time that I thought she was a pink booter. I thought that she wouldn't do.
Why don't you explain that?
If you want a definition, it's someone who won't do anything. I thought she was a girly girl. I thought she was really needy, and I told my dad that. I said, I don't think we need that right now, Dad. I said, we have enough stuff to deal with ourselves. I said, I'm in high school, Riley's in middle school. We can't take all this in. I said, it's just a lot. And I think something that caught me by surprise is how well we've gotten to know each other and how well we get along. Not a day goes by that I don't learn something new about them, but it's not necessarily it's not necessarily something that's shocking. It's just something
Sure.
that you're like, oh, well, that's something new. But when I first moved in, I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be awful. Three other kids in the same house. I said, I'm just going to be tortured the whole time, but
Think you have.
yeah, and I have.
Yeah, and you have.
That's necessarily not been a complete lie, but
We like
at-
transparency. It's important.
But as we've gotten to know each other, I think it's amazing how well we've worked together. And
And how long have Colleen and your dad been married?
it will be 3 years
Okay.
in
We'll just say too long.
March.
Oh, wonderful.
It'll be 3 years in March, and
March or
Yeah.
April? I thought
April.
it was
It's
it's
April.
April
April.
4th.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
And it's
This
just,
is really not very long.
no.
when you
No, it's
think about it.
crazy. It's crazy how you bond with people that you live with.
It's felt like that we've known each other for a long time. I mean, when we sit down at dinner,
Much longer.
when-
Those
I
are
mean,
some interesting conversations.
We sat down at dinner at a cruise that we went on just a couple months ago, and there were people around us telling us, "Oh, your family's so great. Y'all have so many memories.
People
and y'all talk
listening to
y'all
us
talk about
talk."
y'all talk about anything and everything." And John's there, and John's talking with us, and
Or
we're
he
talking
sleeps at
about-
the table.
or he sleeps at the table because he gets tired.
Yeah.
And it's just great to be able to take that for what it's worth, not necessarily be like, well, woe is me,
Sure.
we're in this situation, but we see that we're in the situation, we say, well, instead of thinking about how bad it is, how can we make the best out of this situation?
Yeah, and there's no way if you're a special needs sibling that you can be happy if you go and throw yourself a pity party. It doesn't work like that. You got to have an attitude of being positive. You have to want to be happy. And that also sounds a bit negative, but it isn't. It's a great motivator. It's an awesome motivator.
Are there days that any of you have said to the other, John is on my nerves today, and I just can't deal with him
Oh.
one more minute?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
it
there
happens.
has.
It happens weekly and monthly.
Yes.
It's a complicated process. Out of all the autistic children I've worked with, because I work at our church with the autistic children, and we have an event called Fun Zone, and that's which is a great program at Stonebrook Community Church, by the way. You take your autistic children there, and we
Or
watch
just
them
disabled.
for you.
I mean, it's
It's
not
either.
limited to autism.
And out of all the cases, John's the worst. And I look at other autistic children, and their siblings say, it's so bad, he always talks all the time. And, I'm like, our brother talks all the time. He has Tourette's. He's mentally disabled. He can't sleep at night, It's difficult when you have someone like that.
And come downstairs at
But-
2 a.m. He's fixing himself a sandwich.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just it's so awesome to have a great team like us working with him, and I would not have it any other way, because like you said, like Ashley said, it's a great motivator. You can't look back on your life and say, why can't it be different? Please get me out of this situation.
It never works
Because
anyways.
nothing's going to change. What is it going to do to complain? You're not going to get anywhere, and actually you're going to regress. You're going to make a 180 again, and you're going to go back the other way. So what you want to do is you want to think about the pros and the cons, and try and list out how much more you can grow, how better of a person you become, and how much more love you can extend to your family comparatively to complaining and not helping out, and not helping your parents out with the situation, because they're probably trying a lot harder than we are.
And no matter how much you look at it and say it's a bad thing, God puts that kid in your life for a purpose, for a reason. He might close the doors that you thought were going to be open, but he has a purpose for it, and it makes you the person that you are today. It is an incredible, like I've said, it's an incredible motivator, and without it, you probably won't be as strong as you grow to be. No matter what, there's always a purpose for it. Always. I can definitely say that I wouldn't be where I am right now without John, which, like I've said before also, some people would look at as a bad thing. I look at it as positive. As positive. And I wouldn't have said that a few years ago. Just going back to how you can change, I wouldn't have said that. It's surprising.
So, talk a little bit to kids who might not have a close sibling network. There are lots of families where there's one child with special needs and one typically developing child, and there isn't another sibling to
That's
rally
tough.
around. What advice would you have for those kids?
Whew, man.
It's really, really tough.
When it's been easier for us, time management wise, because we have 4 kids we have 3 of us living in the family, and we'll be like, okay, I'll take care of John this Saturday. You guys can take care of him on Wednesday during the summer, because he doesn't have school during the summer, and It'll be like it'll work itself out usually. And my
It's that
stepdad,
teamwork.
my stepdad comes home from work at about 4 o'clock, and he can take over for the rest of the night. So it's pretty easy. But man, if you're living by yourself with your parents and an autistic child, it's gonna be rough.
Automatically.
The only thing you can really do, besides looking towards the future, is grow from it. Think about read the Bible and think about what God says about people being different and growing from certain situations, because you're always going to have a challenge in life. Nothing's going to be coming easily every single day. You're going to have a challenge.
You don't have a typical sibling. That's just not an option anymore.
Yeah.
But another thing that helps is having friends and developing a very strong structure with your friends, where you're able to talk about your problems and your issues, or even getting a counselor. There's no shame in going to talk to somebody about this stuff. No shame at all, because it's tough. It's tough. And you're going to be stuck in a rut if you don't go and get those feelings out and talk about how you wish things would be different, because you are going to wish things were different.
We all wish things were different in life. And if you're on the internet and you're looking for videos about how to make life easier and look for advice, be like Advice 101 from YouTube, I mean, no one else is going to tell you differently besides it's tough. And if you keep on telling yourself, I want a different answer, I want a different solution to what's problem I'm in right now, I mean, you're not going to find one. You're going to have to stick it out.
You can wish that it was different, but it's better not to dwell on that. It's more positive for you not to dwell on that, and for everybody else, because like we've said before, it's not going to change anything.
I think something that a lot of people have trouble with coming to grip with is whenever they have a sibling with special needs, they think to themselves, well, I'm not qualified to do this. They say, well, God, I'm not qualified to do this. Why did you pick me? And I think something important to remember is that God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So he puts that person into your life not because he thinks you can handle it, but because he thinks this will help you learn how to handle it.
And because he knows you can handle it. You can handle it. Just a matter of trying and not giving up, looking at the negatives.
You've all touched on aspects of faith, but I want to know a little more specifically, how has the experience of being John's sibling affected your faith and your relationship with the Lord?
I'll be the first to say I got mad at him. I've gotten angry. I wanted to be normal, and I wasn't a normal kid in the first place. So having an autistic sibling was just like one more thing that I had to worry about. And so I did struggle with that anger and the bitterness and the resentment towards John and towards God. But after I thought about it and rationalized it, talked about it with my counselors and even my mom, I realized that no matter how much resentment I have, no matter how hard it is, I can't be mad at God for this. He's, in essence, given me a gift of having a sibling that's not like everybody else's, an experience that not everybody has, an understanding that not everyone will possess. It's a great life skill, and it teaches you a lot about yourself, surprisingly, I'd have to say.
My mom made an analogy she formed, and being the most loving mother ever and being one of the most faithful women ever. It was really powerful to how I looked at myself. And she said, God sees us as we see John. God sees us as we are not able to complete a mission, as we are unable to complete a mission. We're not able to earn salvation by ourselves. We need help. We need to be in the scriptures. Same kind of aspect goes for John. He needs us, and he needs to grow, and we can help him with that.
Just perhaps in a different way, but it's the same.
Not saying we're God or anything, but we see him as differently and as completely separated as God is holy from us. So I thought that was really strong in my heart and really powerful played, because
It helps you understand and have more compassion.
how much of a different situation John is in. So it's helped my faith so much. I mean, you can't grow from easy situations. You only grow from hard situations. And if I didn't have Jonathan, more things would be a lot easier, and I wouldn't grow. I wouldn't have grown.
I think something that you learn whenever you have a special needs kid come into your life is you learn the depth of your compassion. Whenever before I came into this family and I knew John, I guess I didn't truly know what compassion was all about. I thought that it was just loving somebody. But whenever I met John, I look at him and I thought to myself, I love this guy. I mean, you know, and it's not just any kind of love. It's like what Austin says when God looks down upon us and says, you know,
Unconditional.
I know that you can't do this by yourself, but I love you, and that's enough. You know, it touched me in a profound way when I figured out that compassion was something. It's like grace. It's a gift that you give to someone, and it's a gift to yourself when you can feel it for someone.
Austin and Ashley and Cody, thank you so much for sharing all of this information with us. And we hope that this will be an encouragement to you in your ministry, and especially to other siblings of kids with special needs. Thanks for joining us for Inclusion Fusion.